Tragedy has struck the Kennedy family once again. Tatiana Schlossberg, the granddaughter of President John F. Kennedy, has died unexpectedly at just 35 years old. But behind this shocking headline lies a story that touches on legacy, privilege, and the pressures of growing up in one of America's most famous families. Today, we're diving deep into the life, struggles, and mysterious circumstances surrounding her untimely death, details the media barely touched. Tatiana Schlossberg was more than just a Kennedy. Born into one of America's most iconic political families, she carried a legacy that comes with both privilege and immense pressure. The world knew her as the intelligent, poised granddaughter of John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. She was a journalist, an environmental advocate, and a rising voice in public discourse. But behind the polished appearances and prestigious family dinners, Tatiana faced a life shadowed by immense expectations. From a young age, the Kennedy name opened doors, but it also magnified every mistake, every struggle, every personal choice. Today, we're uncovering the full story of her life, her achievements, her challenges, and the shocking circumstances surrounding her untimely death at just 35 years old. In this video, you'll learn details about her family history, her professional work, her personal life, and the shocking events leading up to her passing. And stay until the end, because some aspects of her death remain unclear, raising questions that few are talking about publicly. Now, let's start with her early life and the remarkable legacy she inherited. A story that begins with fame, fortune, and the shadows that come with being a Kennedy. Tatiana Schlossberg was born on May 5, 1988, into a family whose name is practically synonymous with American history. Her grandfather, John F. Kennedy, served as the 35th President of the United States, while her grandmother, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, became an enduring symbol of grace, style, and resilience after the tragic assassination of JFK. From the very beginning, Tatiana's life was intertwined with a legacy of fame, power, and often tragedy. Growing up in this environment was a mix of privilege and scrutiny. While many children of prominent families live in relative anonymity, Tatiana's every milestone, from her first school to her graduation, was framed by public attention. She attended some of the most prestigious schools in the United States, including Yale University, where she studied history and developed a passion for journalism and environmental advocacy. Despite her accomplishments, the Kennedy family shadow loomed large. Every decision she made, every public appearance, and even her choice of career were closely watched. Friends and colleagues often described her as thoughtful, intelligent, and deeply committed to making a difference. Yet there was an unspoken pressure she carried, a pressure to uphold a family legacy defined by heroism, tragedy, and relentless public scrutiny. Tatiana's early life was also marked by personal losses that shaped her worldview. Beyond the historical tragedies associated with the Kennedy family, she experienced moments of private grief and struggle that were seldom seen by the public. These experiences reportedly fueled her drive to engage with environmental issues, to write compellingly about climate change, and to advocate for a better, more sustainable world. But here's where the story becomes even more compelling and tragic. Despite her accomplishments and outwardly glamorous life, there were signs of the immense pressures she faced, pressures that would follow her into adulthood, and, in ways still unclear, tie into the shocking news of her untimely death. In the next section, we'll explore Tatiana's professional life and public achievements, how she used her platform to raise awareness about climate change and social issues, and the challenges she faced as a young Kennedy trying to make a mark in the world. Tatiana Schlossberg was more than a Kennedy name on a byline. She was a voice with a mission. After graduating from Yale University, she carved a path for herself in journalism and environmental advocacy, determined to make a meaningful impact on issues that mattered to her deeply. She joined the New York Times as a journalist, a role that not only highlighted her talent for storytelling, but also placed her in the heart of critical conversations about climate change and sustainability. Her writing often focused on environmental policy, conservation, and the urgent need for action in the face of global warming. Tatiana had a unique ability to translate complex scientific concepts into compelling narratives that resonated with readers. She wasn't just reporting facts, she was shaping public discourse, shining a light on issues often ignored by mainstream media, and giving a voice to environmental causes. In addition to her journalism, Tatiana also engaged in advocacy work. She participated in conferences, panel discussions, and environmental campaigns, often using her family's prominence to bring attention to causes she believed in. colleagues described her as passionate, intelligent, and relentlessly dedicated, a young woman committed to leaving her mark on the world in a meaningful way. Yet, even amid her accomplishments, Tatiana faced challenges. Working in journalism and advocacy while carrying the Kennedy legacy was no small task. Every article she wrote, every public appearance she made, came under scrutiny, not just for its content, but for how it reflected on her family. The pressure to succeed, combined with the weight of public expectation, created an environment that was as stressful as it was prestigious. Despite these pressures, Tatiana's professional life was marked by moments of triumph. She published notable articles, contributed to high-profile discussions on climate change, and became recognized as a credible and influential voice among young environmentalists. However, behind the scenes, sources suggest that the demands of her career, coupled with personal challenges, created strains that few outside her inner circle fully understood. And here's a suspenseful twist. While Tatiana's professional achievements were celebrated publicly, the circumstances surrounding her private life were far more complex, filled with struggles and challenges that the media barely reported. These hidden elements add layers to the shocking story of her untimely death, a story we will explore in the next section. Behind the polished public image of Tatiana Schlossberg was a young woman navigating the complexities of personal life under the microscope of fame. As a Kennedy, privacy was a rare luxury. Every relationship, friendship, and personal choice could quickly become fodder for media speculation. Tatiana's personal life, though quieter than her grandfather's political career or her grandmother's public presence, was filled with moments of love, ambition, and private struggle. Tatiana was known to value her close-knit circle of friends and family. Those who knew her described her as warm, intelligent, and deeply empathetic, a person who could balance the pressures of a public life with moments of genuine connection. But living up to the Kennedy legacy was not easy. The expectations of carrying forward a family name synonymous with history, politics, and tragedy created a unique form of stress. Every milestone, from a new career achievement to personal relationships, was weighed against an invisible scale of public scrutiny. Sources close to her suggest that Tatiana faced challenges common to young adults, but amplified by her family's notoriety. The pressures of maintaining a public image while managing private ambitions could be overwhelming. Friends mentioned that she often seemed contemplative, carrying the weight of expectations that few could fully understand. The tension between public admiration and private struggle became an underlying theme in her life. Tatiana's romantic relationships, though mostly private, were part of this complex web. She reportedly valued deep, meaningful connections and sought partners who understood both her individuality and the unique legacy she carried. However, maintaining a balance between personal fulfillment and public responsibility was never simple. Being constantly in the public eye meant that personal challenges, breakups, disappointments, or even minor conflicts were often magnified beyond their natural scale. Beyond relationships, her personal struggles also included the emotional toll of witnessing ongoing family tragedies. The Kennedy family history is marked by loss, assassinations, accidents, and public scrutiny, which Tatiana grew up knowing was part of her inheritance. Living in the shadow of such events left an indelible mark on her, shaping her worldview and, according to some sources, influencing the way she approached both her professional work and personal life. The intersection of fame, family legacy, and personal ambition created a life that was as rewarding as it was challenging. While Tatiana achieved remarkable success and made meaningful contributions to journalism and environmental advocacy, the private pressures she faced were a constant undercurrent, one that would later make the news of her untimely death all the more shocking. The news of Tatiana Schlossberg's death at just 35 sent shockwaves across the globe. Headlines splashed her name alongside her famous grandfather's, immediately connecting her passing to the storied and often tragic history of the Kennedy family. Social media erupted with disbelief, mourning, and speculation as fans and the public struggled to comprehend that another young Kennedy had been lost. While official statements from the family and authorities confirmed her passing, many details remain unclear. Reports have not fully disclosed the cause of death, leaving a cloud of uncertainty and sparking intense speculation in both media outlets and online communities. Some sources suggest it was sudden and unexpected, adding to the tragic narrative that seems to follow the Kennedy lineage. Others point to potential health issues or private struggles that were never publicly disclosed. Tatiana's death underscores the harsh reality of growing up in a family constantly under public scrutiny. Unlike ordinary individuals, her life and passing are dissected in real time by the media, with speculation often overshadowing the personal grief experienced by family and close friends. The pressure to live up to the Kennedy name, combined with the isolation of public attention, may have played a role in the stresses she carried, a reminder that fame and legacy, while admired, can also weigh heavily on a young person. Public reactions poured in almost immediately. Politicians, journalists, environmental advocates, and celebrities who had known Tatiana expressed shock and sorrow. Many remembered her not just as a Kennedy, but as a brilliant young journalist committed to making the world a better place. Tributes highlighted her advocacy for climate change, her insightful reporting, and the warmth she brought to personal relationships. Social media users shared memories, articles she had written, and photos, creating a digital memorial of sorts for someone who lived much of her life in both the spotlight and the private shadows of fame. Yet, even amid the condolences and tributes, the unanswered questions linger. How did someone so young and accomplished pass away so suddenly? Were there hidden struggles that went unnoticed by the public? Could the pressures of her family legacy and career have contributed to her untimely death? These questions remain largely unanswered, leaving the public to speculate while the family mourns privately. Adding to the intrigue, insiders suggest that Tatiana had been working on several major projects in environmental journalism and advocacy. Her passing raises concerns about unfinished work and unrealized potential, as well as the broader conversation about the mental and emotional toll that fame, family, and societal expectations can have on young public figures. And here's the suspenseful point. While we know the headlines, the full story of Tatiana Schlossberg's final days, her personal struggles, and the exact circumstances of her death remain largely unknown. Some believe there are details that the public hasn't been told, details that could shed light on why another young Kennedy was taken so soon, echoing the family's long history of tragedy and loss. Tatiana Schlossberg's passing is more than just the loss of an individual. It resonates deeply because of the Kennedy family legacy, a lineage that has long captured the imagination, admiration, and, at times, sympathy of the American public. The Kennedys are often seen as a symbol of idealism, power, and social responsibility, but their history is also marked by tragedy, unexpected loss, and public scrutiny. Tatiana's death at 35 is another chapter in this ongoing narrative, forcing the world to reflect on what it truly means to live under such a historic shadow. For historians and the public alike, her passing is a stark reminder of the human side of fame. Growing up as a Kennedy means inheriting a legacy of expectation, expectations that can inspire greatness, but also create immense pressure. Tatiana had to navigate a life where every decision, career move, and personal milestone was magnified by the public eye. The achievements of her grandfather, the poise of her grandmother, and the tragedy that has touched nearly every generation of her family shaped a life that was extraordinary yet, in many ways, intensely challenging. Her death also brings into focus the modern pressures faced by young people in the public sphere. Unlike previous generations, today's public figures contend not only with traditional media scrutiny, but also with the relentless gaze of social media, instant commentary, and viral speculation. Tatiana's life and untimely passing highlight the emotional and psychological toll that fame and legacy can have, how even privilege and opportunity cannot shield someone from personal struggles. Fans, historians, and journalists have begun reflecting on what Tatiana's life meant for the Kennedy family's broader legacy. She represented a generation that sought to balance history with progress, tradition with activism. Her advocacy for environmental issues, her journalistic work, and her efforts to engage in public discourse all serve as reminders that even amidst immense expectations, she strove to carve out her own identity. Her death leaves a void not only in her family, but also in the communities she touched through.